Hey, just come over here and explain yourself. This is what you decided to do while you were waiting on me?
Yeah. It's Barney. The space between the barn and the E. Barn for the barn and E for Everest.
Barn space E, huh?
Yeah.
Barn, first name E.
$sign E. Just kidding.
Barn E, huh?
Yeah.
Well, there's one thing about it. When it's dark out here and the snow is covered and we got a full moon, it's just bright out here. You can walk around without a light on. We got a full moon in the sky. Clear sky tonight. We have a little lamp over there, but it's just so bright. I'll try to take a picture. Without any like slow shutter or anything. And then I'll take one with the slow shutter. Well, I was just finishing up my coffee this morning, getting ready to come over and get started on the barn, and the power went out. So I've got an issue that's been happening with my battery bank, and I've got two banks of batteries. They're both 12-volt batteries, and they're hooked in series for 48-volt system. And I've got these little battery balancers on them, and they usually do pretty good. But you can see, got one battery here that's at 10.6 and the others are 11.5, and then this one was the same kind of way. Now my total voltage is sitting at 45.4 and the cutoff is at 42 something. But you'll see when I reset the inverter how quickly those batteries will drop. And what I find in the last couple of days is I've got this far battery over here showing 10.5 right now, but that one has been dropping off pretty hard, a lot faster than the others. And I noticed that a few days ago on this bank, this side, the battery was doing the same thing. It was dropping off to like 9 or 10 volts, and these are lithium batteries here, and they have an internal battery management. So when they hit, I believe on these batteries, when they hit 10 volts, they disconnect and have to be reset before they'll come back online. If that happens, that opens the circuit on the 48 volts and the whole bank goes offline. These other batteries are silicate batteries, and they don't have a battery management system in them, so they'll discharge and just keep discharging. But if my overall system drops to that 42.6, I think it is, then they will drop out. So they're sitting okay. They've recovered enough with surface charge. That 10.3 on this side, 10.2 now, tells me that the battery equalizer is not being able to keep up with the discharge rate on this battery. So what I'm going to do, I used to run into this all the time on heavy equipment and stuff when I used to do that stuff for a living. Anytime you have multiple batteries, the battery that is closest to the end that goes out to the supply, that battery always seems to take more of a hit than the rest of the batteries. The others work in series and it kind of works fluidly through it. But when you have especially a high demand, it'll pull more out of the closest battery than it will out of the other batteries. So I am going to go ahead, take a few minutes and break down this battery bank a little bit and move that battery to a different location, which should take some of the stress off of that battery It'll help it balance out its life a little bit better, and I'll move one of these others into that rotation. Because of this issue, this is the first time we've experienced it, but like I said, I've experienced it many times in the past with heavy trucks and heavy equipment that have multiple batteries in their bank. And it's just something that happens, just the way that the electricity works with it. So rather than having to continue dealing with that, when we move our system to the barn and we're ready to upgrade there, I think I'm going to upgrade the batteries to 48 volt individual batteries so that they're fully self-contained on the internal voltage. And then there's no worry about the one battery dropping off compared to the other and that kind of thing. But we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and set up, and I'll move this battery to the middle of the bank. I'm just going to switch these two end ones so that we get that cycled out. I did that on the lithium ones the other day, and that took care of that problem. But as you can see, this lithium one is the one that was dropping out, and that's my positive leg output on that bank. And then this battery down here that has the issue is on my ground side. So it's basically the opposite end of the bank. And so both end batteries are basically where it's coming from. So I switched the one. I'm going to switch the other today before I go out and work on the barn. And that should help resolve that balancing issue. When we first moved up here, we had a 12 volt system in our cabin that ran the lights and battery charger for phones and things like that. So one of these lithium batteries is what we had upgraded when we first moved in. Shortly after that, we upgraded to 4 of those to make a 48 volt system. A few weeks later, we added the silicate salt batteries to greatly increase our capacity of storage. We wanted to try the two batteries compared to each other and see which one was the better solution. They both have their benefits in their own right, and we wanted to really test them out and see which way we would go. Now that we've been here a year, I think we're going to end up with the lithium batteries for our situation. The silicate are great, but the lithium is better for us. Okay, now we're charging back in, and you can see that after moving it, that second one in is actually showing a little higher voltage, and that's probably because we are currently charging at about 1,000 watts. So that one is a little higher because it's taking more charge right now because it was lower. So that should balance out slowly today as it charges. Everything should even out, and then that one won't take as much hit. We should float out just fine now. So should be in good shape. Go ahead and fire the inverter back on, and we'll see the voltages drop on the initial kickoff. It doesn't look like they're dropping much because of that 1,000 watts of input. There they start. Okay, not bad. Should be in good shape. Making 1,000 watts of power right now. And if we step outside, you can see the sun is just now getting up over. So you can see they're just now getting into the sun. They probably still have a little bit of residual snow from yesterday on them, but we'll start charging up good. Yesterday afternoon, went in and picked up the boys and we went to dinner as a family. And as soon as I got close to town, it just turned into fog and inversion. It was socked in like that all night. We got home, and as we just about got here, it was crystal clear, and we had beautiful clear night, full moon. And this morning we got sun is shining everywhere. Solar panels are clearing themselves off because it's warm and bright and sunny. But if you look around at the valley, it is socked in with fog and inversion. We used to live down in the valley on the south end of the town, and we'd have fog days Just countless of them over winter. Days when the inversion would get bad. But here we're up above it. Man, I love that. It's pretty nice. So I'm gonna try to pick up where we left off yesterday. We got the windows in. We've got one window left and it's supposed to go in here at the kitchen. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and put it in there just to get it out of the way. And then it's not kicking around. Throw it in real fast. And then I'll probably start with our front door and see what I can do to get it hung. I wanted concrete poured in under the threshold, and I had planned on putting a couple inches of foam between the concrete and the new concrete as a thermal break, and then I would have the threshold rest on concrete across foam and setting on concrete when I installed the doors. I don't have that option now because I'm not going to be able to get concrete this time of year. So I'm going to cut off this bottom girt, even with the top of the concrete. And I'll still stack my foam in there. And then I'm just going to block up underneath on the outside in the center to kind of help carry the threshold, make sure it doesn't flex or get bent, broken, pushed down. So I'll do that. We'll still be resting here on the concrete for our main bit, and we'll have our casing, door casing ends will sit on this girt and the concrete for support. And I think that's what I'm going to do to get it installed. I'll throw the foam in there, and then once we have the ability to get concrete in, we'll pour concrete. I'll pull that block out of the front of the threshold and we'll just pour concrete right under the threshold. And it should be just fine. So that's going to be the plan. We'll see what we can do with it today. I'm going to start with this door, then I'll probably go to that door and do this one last. I don't know why, just because. Technically, this window is going to be an interior window, but there's a chance that this room will be colder than that room. Because there's an opportunity for substantial temperature difference between the shop here and the kitchen, I'm going to go ahead and flash this window just like I would if it was an exterior window. And I think it'll just be better off if I do that. I'm not sure that any of this is necessary for this window, and sometimes I find myself getting caught up between overthinking something and not doing enough. Generally speaking, I end up erring towards the side of overthinking. Hopefully, that never comes back to bite me in the end. Our intention on this wall, the bottom half all the way around, we're going to have this 1/2-inch plywood as our wall surface. I don't want drywall on the bottom, especially in a shop where if I'm washing the floor out, I don't want to have the risk of having water come and soak up into that drywall. And just worked in too many shops, too many years. You need a bang wall. I don't know how else to say it, but you've got lifting chains, or you've got floor jacks, things like that. You push them up against the wall, and they bang up against the wall. They put dents and divots in the drywall or punch holes if there's not really good supporting on the back end. I just don't like it. I don't want to deal with it. So we want plywood. Plywood can handle it. If I need to hang hangers for brooms and things like that, anything I need to put, shelves and stuff, it gives me material to bite into to hang all those things on without having to worry about anchors and all this other crap. So our intention is we're going to use some hot mud just to skim coat the plywood. Just some real basic thing. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth walls, but I want a good wall. I want a nice finish to it, and I want it to be durable and last. So we're going to use the hot mud. That has a polymerized kind of an adhesive incorporated into the mud. We'll use that so it shouldn't flick and flake off if it bangs. And then we'll painter caulk the seams just so they've got a little bit of expansion and flexibility. And then we're going to paint it. The top half will join 1/2-inch drywall above the plywood so that the upper walls are nice and smooth and clear. And then we'll just have a trim strip at the joint. So on the window, since I'm not going to have a finish coating wall exterior, I don't want my flashing to be, I've got 9-inch roll here on this flashing, so I'm not going to use a full width flashing here. Again, it's probably overkill to use it anyway, but if I can help minimize any air travel between any cold air from in here entering into the kitchen and vice versa, or bleeding all my hot air from the kitchen space out into the shop and just losing it when I'm not heating the shop. Plus the moisture condensing is a benefit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down. It's a 9-inch roll, so I'm going to cut it down into 3-inch strips. That'll be enough to cover the nail flange plus 1.5 inches onto the plywood. And then I can cover around, I can trim my window with a 4-inch trim all the way around, and that'll cover all of the exposed flashing, and I won't have to worry about having it exposed or having any of that thing to worry about. So that's what I'm going to do. I didn't even see it when I came up, but came out to start doing a little bit of cleanup and saw that. Way over here, track's moving this direction, down off the hill, and way over here, tracks coming up the hill, up through here and around the shop. So that means I'm going to walk up here, and next to this gate there's going to be a turkey who's standing outside the fence near the gate looking to get back in with the rest of the flock. Looks like I got 2 of them. You two are going to make some fine turkey sausage in the spring. Just got to get some eggs out of you first, and then we'll do that. Pretty good jumpers, you two. Might have to cook them drumsticks a little low and slow. Might be tough with that good of jumping. I got started prepping this door space and realized I had a bunch of snow and ice I needed to melt out and scrape off to get this doorway opened up and ready for the door. So I had to go get the torch and melt the ice and mud under the ice to scrape it off and get everything ready so that I could put the door in without any problems of debris underneath it. So getting ready to put these doors on. The doors come with a brick mold, that's what they call it, on the front to kind of set right in against the exterior of the wall and give you a seal and a flange for the siding to come up to and everything. Now I got to take all that off on all these doors as they go in. The front door, the wall there is 6.5 inches thick, and these door casings are only 4. So what I'm going to have to do is, and I've had to do this in the past, it's not a big deal, but I'm going to take this brick mold off, and then after I get the door installed and everything's good there, and I have everything wrapped up, what I'll do is I'll build an extension on the casing that will come out flush with the wall. And then when I go to trim the door, since we're going to have sheet metal on the walls, I'll probably use a sheet metal trim to go and block out the door opening. So I'll build this casing as an extension to get out to the width I need. What I'll do is I'll set the door into the wall, and I'll set it at the depth that will make sense for the interior space, so that my plywood and such can come up against the door casing and flush like it needs to, so that my trim strip will go on and everything will be good there. And that just means that the whole door casing will be set toward the interior just a little farther. On the side doors, those walls are thicker because they're 2x6 thickness plus the girts on both sides. So that makes them 8.5 inches thick. So that door casing extension will be pretty sizable. So that's what I've got to do real quick, is pull all this off. Then I can stand the door into place and get it all situated. The kitchen and the battery room will be left-hand in swing. This door here will be right-hand in swing. That door will be left-hand in swing on the entrance. The reason for that is when you go into the kitchen, I don't want the door opening into the main space of the kitchen. Same with the battery room. I don't want it opening into the main space. I want it open against the wall. When you enter the room, you don't have to walk around the doorway to get in. So I'll probably go ahead, I'll pull this brick mold off of this door, stand it up and out of the way. It'll be the next one I put in over here. And then I'll pull the brick mold off of the next one down, which is the left-hand in swing, get it prepared to get installed over here on this front entry. Like I said earlier, I've done this a time or two before, and it's not really a big deal, but it just takes enough careful planning at the beginning to make it easy when we go forward and make it happen. I just threw these couple of scraps of plywood on here just as a guide, so that when I set the door in there, I can bring the casing flush out here and know that that's going to set out pretty flush when I put the actual plywood in place for the door or for the wall. And it's just going to give me a guide to get it real close so that I know my depth is about right. For whatever reason, this door went in easier and better than any door I've ever done in the past. The next door I did, not so much. That's the first door in. You can see what I was talking about with the wall thickness. So I'll build a casing extension that'll come out to here, and then I can trim it and flush it out and get everything built out nicely. But it opens and closes pretty well. I think I shimmed it pretty well. If I pull this stopper out of there, doesn't take any real effort to open it. And it sets right nice when it closes on its own. So I started putting this door in, and immediately I knew it wasn't going as smoothly as the first door. I had to work at it a little bit more, getting shimming, getting plumb, getting everything to just line up right and make sure it came out as good. Ultimately, this door is not installed half as good as the other one, and it took 3 times longer to do. But it's still good enough that everything looks good, and it's going to close well, and everything's going to be just fine. So it's just how it goes when you're doing these kind of things. As I wrapped up this door and moved on to the next one, I knew that this weather was coming in strong and coming in hard. And as I was running out of daylight to end the day, I had to go get the boys from the bus stop and just take advantage of the weather as it was coming in. That meant setting up the camera for the weather as it was coming in from the valley. And then again to capture the magnificent night sky.